Hello everybody, welcome back to Wolfeei Block Wars. Today we're doing an event review of Block Wars Brawl, the most recent and last event before break from Block Wars, a high comp alternative to the regular, types of event. This event review will go over every single game, performance, etc. So a spoiler warning now, we will be looking at the people who won, etc. If you haven't watched the event yet, go watch a VOD. My VOD's up on this channel, so if you want to watch my POV, go watch it. It's right there. It's called Block Wars Brawl VOD. It's got a nice thumbnail made by a lovely viewer. So yeah. Anyways, first, before we get into anything, just wanted to give a quick little shout out to the purple team. They were lovely this time around, and honestly, initially when team selection happened, etc., and seeing some of the responses to it, I was a little hesitant about if we wanted to do another video application team in the future. With the actual way this team ended up, participating and just how they engaged with everybody, it was lovely. It was great. I'd love to try to do a video application or a viewer team or whatever in the future again. I think these people made a very good appearance during Block Wars Brawl, regardless of performance or not. So yeah, shout out to them. Also, Pokimane tweeted, "Hey, I'm just saying, she's got a point. All right, don't do it. Thank you, Pokimane." All right, now we are going to get into the actual meat and potatoes. Actual last spoiler warning before I look at the results, etc. of this event. 3, 2, 1. Okay, you have been warned. Here are the results. This is the website for Block Wars Brawl. Little extra thing as well. The most recent Origins, the Pride Origins, and also Rookies 4 are now on the website. They weren't on the website before, but they now are if you want to see all the stats, etc. Just a heads up, or just so everyone's aware. But this is the page for all the stats for this event. And let's get into the performance overall. So first, let's look at the overall leaderboard, etc., right, that we have on our hands here. I would say mostly unsurprisingly, the top two teams were the ones that people expected. The Giants with the most recent substitute ended up being quite a bit strong. Potentially even overpowered. Actually, I would consider it a little bit of an overpowered team. And the blue team also put up a very strong performance as expected. I still stand by the fact that I don't think the team was OP, because I think there is a certain threshold for a team's strength that is necessary for it to be OP. Additionally, also the 12 days or 2 weeks of practice leading up to the event have a lot of impact. I do really genuinely think that Nerdy's efforts towards practicing paid off tremendously for this event, because Nerdy, I think, ended up performing top half individually or something along those lines. A very impressive performance. A big shout out to him, of course, and Silver, of course, also with a good performance to make it into the top 2 in terms of the teams. My team making it to 3rd as expected, roughly. Pink 4th with a late last few game comeback, and then the rest of the teams I think were mostly hovering around the middle or lower end range throughout the majority of the event. The red team I know was mostly kind of playing for content, partially wasn't really aware of the competitive factor of this event. The yellow team had a really strong start or really strong early end with order up, for example. We'll get to that later. And I think the archers and the phantoms were on the lower end throughout most of the event, just slightly underbalanced teams, which it happens. That is part of how events work, generally speaking. Anyways, onto the games. First up, over Spleef. Now this really was quite a wonderful first game to start with, because my team, Feinberg is it's just so appealing to attack him in Spleef, man. It's just so fun. Usually I don't target at all. I think Sleepy and Rain maybe usually going for Feinberg. I don't think me and Boostford always go for Feinberg. I usually just kind of do whatever. However, this time around, we were terrified of the blue team doing well, and it was kind of funny. Genuinely peak clip from this event, if you just look up Feinberg's POV or something along the lines of Feinberg Block Wars Brawl clip, you'll find the clip of Fein screaming in my team's VC at all of my teammates, which was really funny. Generally speaking, I'll give a heads up now as well. In terms of the actual gameplay side of things, there's very little to talk about, because I think the main appealing part here is just the unique combos, the unique experience of having a higher comp alternative to the general event. But gameplay-wise, very few things were updated, and I also think Block Wars is just in a very comfortable spot in terms of its games right now, where I don't think there is much that I would be very critical of personally. Of course, I will be biased, but I'm just giving the heads up, like, hey, there might not be that much in-depth game analysis because there's very little to analyze when I already am used to the way things are, and I'm comfortable and happy with the way things are for the most part. One thing that is notable is that Spleef did have 2 vanilla rounds instead of having the like extra silly round, you know, the big and the growing one, or the growing one, the one where if you fall down you grow. Spleevolution, I think is what it's called. And I mean, I didn't really like miss having a special one, but I guess continuously you'd want to have a more special round in rotation, because I do understand that this is the most generic rendition of Spleef. Vanilla round 1, vanilla round 2, TNT round 3. It's a comfortable one, but if that was just the foundation and the base of Spleef every single time, I could understand why it might be a little bit eh. So anyways, I like Spleef. It was fun. It was funny, and it was great. I liked it. W game. Next up, Race. Generally, in terms of the actual gameplay, it's a map we've seen plenty of times. One thing that does keep being brought up, at least over the past few events, ever since the change has been made, is the scoring is kind of odd. I've explained this plenty of times on stream and to players, and I've also agreed with them that there isn't really a fix, because it's a either pick this or either pick that, and either way, there's always a valid argument against what you actually do. To explain, currently the scoring in Race has a team bonus to make the game have more impact. This team bonus is based off of your performance. It's no like miscellaneous random BS like made up thing. It's like based off of how well your teammates did combined, gives a team bonus, and the reason for that team bonus is to create a difference or differential in terms of the in terms of the team points in this game, because generally Race and just racing games haven't really had any impact. The only way that Race really has impact is if the teams are unbalanced, usually. In this instance, blue team was obviously very well prepared, and some of the other teams were not, which already created a little bit of a gap, but then additionally that extra point bonus for the average placements helps a lot to make certain teams get a bit of a larger gap over others in this game, and makes Race a game that isn't just kind of redundant, right? Either way, that is the argument in favor of the team bonus, which is what we have right now, because the argument previously was, oh, only some games matter, we should fix that. So we've made other games, or we've tried to make other games matter a little bit, Race being one of them. However, on the flip side, the individual board looks a little bit silly. If I look at the individual board right here, you might think like, oh, what's wrong with this? Shane finished the race in first. However, the reason he didn't get first is because of the team bonus, something that is completely out of his control, and there is some criticism towards that, or not some, there is a lot of criticism towards that. Personally, because I am not that competitive of a player, I wouldn't personally care too much about that, but I understand why you would, and I understand, or more so I agree that it's valid criticism, valid feedback of the scoring. It'll probably be looked into. However, I still stand by, I would much rather have Race matter than be the most accurate point representation. Again, argument in favor of both sides works, and argument against either side works as well, because it's a choice. Do you want the most accurate individual points, or do you want the game to matter at all? Pick your poison. Either of them has a negativity and a positivity to it. So we picked the one that is the most unconventional, but it does something. Others might pick the other. So yeah. Anyways, that's the general consensus on that. Order up, pretty interesting here. I think my team debuted or tried to look into like a new strat. I don't know if it's actually new, but to us it felt like a new strat. I think the blue team might have done something similar. However, despite us trying a new strat, thinking that, oh, this is probably going to work better, yellow team crushed it. You know, they just did better. People on Reddit for like the past week leading up to this event were convinced that the blue team was going to set some like team point record in order up. And I personally thought, hey, that could be possible. Speedrunners are really good at order up. This is just a pretty strong team all over, you know, all in all. They could do pretty well. Turns out they got second to yellow team, which is crazy. It's just really funny that that happened, and my team actually was relatively close behind as well. So yeah, either way, order up is good. It's fun. It is a little bit fixed in the sense of like there is a strategy that you probably should use to do well and to be able to win. I also think there is still a little bit too large of a gap between the best and the weakest performance in order up, although the argument in favor of it is really difficult. If this happens when all teams get almost the same amount of orders completed, that's a problem, but generally speaking, the best team will complete 50 to even 100% more orders than the worst team. We've seen this in Origins previously, so that's kind of like the tough part. I'm sure it'll be looked into as well to try to lower that gap ever so slightly, but yeah, quite an interesting thing. Order up game 3 though, it had a multiplier again, kind of shocking, but I think the fire bombs helped a lot throughout the event in that type of sense. Either way, next up was Trailblazers. Not really much to say about this one. There was some new courses, I think. I don't really recall noticing many new courses because I just don't really pay attention to the games that much in terms of, or more so in terms of the individual levels within games. I don't really like memorize them that well. The game was good. I mean, kind of a boring review of this one, but Trailblazers has been in a really good spot for a while. Like pretty much ever since the return of Series 3, Trailblazers has been in a very good spot, and it hasn't really like had many changes in terms of what could have improved or decreased in quality. Slight points, you know, changes that maybe are more favorable to making the game a bit more evenly spread out in terms of balanced gameplay. You know, any game or any type of movement should theoretically be able to reward you with a lot of points. However, considering there are 6 different types of movements and 2 different types of categories of movement with different types of scoring, because that's how the game kind of has to work, because you can't really determine a difficulty of like Trident. It's kind of hard, and like a difficulty of Ice Boat is a little bit gimmicky, so that's why, like, you know, it's a little different. There is still games that just are, or more movement types that are worth more than others. You kind of have to have that. That's impossible to really fully iron out and properly balance, because some, you know, levels within one movement type are going to be harder and easier within the same category, and that's also impossible to balance. So I think it's in a really good spot. That's really it for now, at least. It's kind of the review I'm giving as well as more of a closer to this string of events before we go on break, of like, I think this game is looking pretty good. Very few changes are needed. Same with like Spleef, maybe like an extra, you know, new round type, race, scoring, order up, maybe change the meta somehow. Trailblazers just looks pretty good to me. Then there's Lunge. There's like this, for the most part with Lunge, I would say that, I mean, it's still pretty new, right? It's just got a lot of room to be adjusted and improved. I think there was like an angle that's like, I know Feinberg had a clip of him just kind of spamming an angle. I think it was on the green team, and he just kept getting kills for free. And also the scoring is still like slightly debatable to be fixed, or should be fixed potentially, especially because of course this game doesn't really have much of a difference, but that's kind of on purpose because it's a PvP oriented game, and usually, you'll see this later, PvP games have a little bit too much of an impact on the on the overall event scores. So it's kind of nice to have one that's more silly and kind of doesn't do that much. It doesn't do nothing, but it doesn't do like that much, right? So yeah, I don't know. Lunge, pretty good spot, kind of similar to Trailblazers, maybe some like minor tweaks, but for the most part, I think it's in a very comfortable state. Next up, Party. Oh, also I should mention for Lunge, I am so bad. I'm so dog shit at this. This is my worst game for sure in Block Wars in terms of individual performance. If I have a high score in this game, it's because my team carried the F out of me. Like I'm so bad at this. Either way, moving on to Party. yet again, maybe a slightly boring review, but I think Party's in a really good spot. Yeah, of course, a new game could be nice in Party again. It's always continuously going to be something that's kind of nice to have in Party, to have new content, but that kind of applies in terms of new maps and stuff for other games as well. Party just feels good. Maybe, again, one argument that I think is pretty valid is, hey, maybe there should be a bit more score differential, especially the bottom 4 teams. There's like 60 points difference between 5th and 8th. That's ridiculous. And then these 2 teams are like the exact same, and then these are like the exact same, and then the overall gap is like very, very small. Maybe that could be something to maybe increase that gap ever so slightly, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. That's kind of the only thing. So like maybe a new minigame or something like that, and then slight point adjustments. But for the rest, I think Party's it's good. I had fun. I was absolutely cracked in Photon. Genuinely, if you want to see me be good at video games, watch me and Photon. I was shocked in the moment. I was like, what? Is TENS like controlling my neurons? What is going on? Like, I genuinely was popping the hell off. I was going crazy. I genuinely felt like I was like in a movie or something. It was insane. I would shoot, turn, shoot, turn, shoot, bing, bing, bing. It was just, I just got him. I just kept getting kills. It was insane. So, yeah, it was pretty awesome. I liked it. I think Splat is like the only one really that I could look at to be like, maybe this could be like slightly looked into to be improved or something. But for the most part, I think every other one, Go Down is like good. Maybe Go Down is getting a little bit old now. Might need a slight update, if possible. Photon's great. Photon hasn't been in rotation for a little bit, so, or it wasn't in rotation for like 2 events back to back, I think. So it was just nice to see back. That's kind of a nice thing as well that I'm noticing now is once a game is out of rotation like multiple times, it's being thrown back in is good, especially if it's a popular game. So that's cool. And then Beep Test is solid. I mean, I like Beep Test. Beep Test is fun. So yeah, W Party. Then on to Battle. This is now this is quite an example here of a game that has too much of a gap. To be fair, this is on like a 2x multiplier, maybe 2.5x multiplier. I think it's a 2x multiplier. And wow, wow, Jesus. Quite a big gap, huh? 4,000, and then third is like almost half of the points, and then there's last, and like, oh my god. Battle, look, there's a reason opinions have been shared about Battle and whether it should or shouldn't be in rotation, etc. I think there are a lot of things about Battle that are interesting and cool, and there's a lot of things about Battle that are very, very obviously not great. I think in Brawl, it works really well because we've mentioned this previously. Battle is not a bad game. It's just not a good game for regular or even rookies Block Wars, right? For that more variety-oriented, lower comp-oriented roster, Battle doesn't work, especially because of the huge skill gap and kind of the knowledge diff that also comes into play with Battle. You don't really want to see it in rotation very often for that type of roster. However, in Brawl, it gets a little bit more interesting. I do think there's still some flaws that definitely, like, you know, this is partially due to team balancing, but even a team like Pink, which I do think was pretty much just designed to be like a Battle pop-off team. Like, Pink wanted Battle lights 100% of the time, for sure. Because had Green Team not been like as strong with its substitute as it was, I do think Green still gets easily like second in this because of the composition of like having Charlie and Boblu, etc. But Pink would have like ran away with this game. It would have been a genuinely very scary performance from them. For the rest, I feel like the kits are in a pretty decent spot too. I don't really think there is an overpowered kit. I think the kits offer different things, which is nice. So we'll see. We'll see what Battle looks like for the rest of the year, or however long in the future we look for Block Wars, right? I highly doubt it's going to be in rotation very frequently. It might be could maybe pop up in an Origins more often than it pops up in a regular main event. But for the most part, I just don't really think we will see it very much. Maybe if there's like an invitational, you'll see it, but I don't think in like the mainline Block Wars events we're gonna put battle in rotation very often, because there's no plans for another brawl. So the argument of it doesn't really fit with the regular Block Wars roster, assuming the regular Block Wars roster is the most common type of event going forward this year, probably not gonna see battle very often, but it's not bad. I mean, my team got third, so that's why I kind of didn't hate it, but it wasn't the best. But it was, it's nicer when it's in rotation very infrequently, I think, generally speaking. And then finally, there was Extraction, which it's a classic Extraction last or late, where my team thinks, oh, maybe we could do all right, and then, oh boy. Oh boy, that was definitely not the case. It was also a at the time close fight between my team and blue team for second place. Obviously, as you can see here, blue team got 4,000 points, my team got 2,700. It didn't end up being close near the end because they just did really well at Extraction. There was a game they practiced for, the blue team, and it did fantastic. It paid off. So yeah, the race was close until after like 2 rounds into the game, where we were like, wow, wow, we got rolled. So yeah, that's all combined. Also, Steam got some updates to the map. I think it helps maybe slightly improve the map, but like I don't know. I didn't really notice too big of a difference, generally speaking. All in all, though, the combination of those performances you saw on screen and what we talked about with the games in that order resulted in these scores. I think in terms of like my thoughts on the event, I'm really happy with how it ended up going. Considering the circumstances, considering the people that we ended up inviting, I think the combinations of players on the teams made a lot of sense. I think there are very few changes you can make to make the teams balanced while keeping the charm of a lot of these teams, right? Yes, sure. You could argue that this blue team, you could substitute whoever you feel like is most fitted to substitute. Very hard to argue who you want to sub, because it's either probably one of the newcomers or Feinberg, who, of course, Feinberg's going to be in a Brawl event, or Callum, who hadn't been in a Block Wars in a little bit. And then Quite obviously wouldn't really be subbed out here, because what would you do to make the team more balanced while subbing out Quite, right? So I think that's already a predicament where like you're not really going to be able to achieve the same level of interest surrounding this team while taking one of these players out. This is obviously a situation where, yeah, we we didn't really have much of an option to sub someone in that's more fair. I guess technically we could have maybe put Anthos on that team, but without knowing that Siwat was going to have a major pop-off like he did, that would have been potentially underpowered, right? Because we didn't really know how the two newcomers were going to perform and how Siwat was going to perform really in this environment. For the rest, a team like Red, yeah, it getting 5th is kind of like a bummer. It would have been nice to see Red maybe put up a performance that was a bit higher, but I also don't really know what you would change. A Red team was kind of a perfect one in terms of its team making. The only slot you could really change is Toby, because you have the Quag there, and I honestly think Toby with that squad is just great. I just think that's such a fun group of people. Maybe you could have gotten a Lifestealer on there, but then debatably, would the team have been too strong? Possibly, right? Could have been the case. Pink team, I don't really know what you would change. I think having Lee and Jess together there, together with the obviously like requested trio essentially of Hannah, Shane, and Minute, there's very few changes you could make there that make a lot of sense. Maybe theoretically, Giga and May on yellow could have gone to pink with that trio, because I think May is a bit of a stronger third frag, and I think Giga is potentially a bit of a stronger lower end player here as well. And then before knowing that Haley was going to sub in and having SK there previously, I guess with Lee and Jess that could have still been fine, assuming, you know, the previously assumed top end performance from Speed Silver. And then with the substitution, instead of Haley, you maybe could have put a stronger performing player there, maybe even Forsey, and then put Haley here, but even then I don't think that fixes the balancing that much. So I'm happy with it. I think generally speaking, this roster went relatively as hoped and as expected, and regardless of what people on Reddit say, I think this is good. I liked this event. I don't think we'll do Brawl very often. I don't think it'll be as common as Rookies, just because it's more difficult at this point, really, to put together. Getting invites for Brawl is easier than getting invites for Rookies, but everything after the announcements of Brawl, etc., was a lot harder to deal with than anything that happens post a Rookies team announcement, etc., because when Rookies teams get announced, people just are like, oh my god, cool streamers in, and in Brawl, they're like, oh my god, cool streamers in, also this team is broken and you suck. It's like, yeah, it brings a different audience, right? So that's why I think Rookies is just infinitely, or always going to be the more common spin-off compared to something like a Brawl. So yeah, that is generally everything that I wanted to say about Block Wars Brawl, my review. I'm glad we get to take a little break now. I was talking to Garf like last night about the events coming in the summer, and it's gonna be quiet. It's gonna be pretty quiet, I think. MCC's around, Block Wars on break, PB on break, Mayhem obviously on break, or however, maybe even just dead. Buy-in Battle's currently on break, and that's the main 5 ones people pay attention to, right? So 4 out of the main 5 events are just currently not going to be around. It's just MCC, which means that a large portion of the event scene will just not be present, because MCC's roster is obviously a bit more on the exclusive end compared to other events. Either way, that's all. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this event, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.